안녕하세요. 오늘 또 이번 수업을 또 진행을 하도록 하겠습니다. 어쨌든 이제 우리가 이제 온라인 수업을 5월 초까지 진행을 해야 되는 그런 상태가 되었고요. 음, 뭐 쉽지 않은 그런 환경에서 또 이렇게 수업을 진행을 하고, 또 여러분들도 이제 수업을 듣고 있는데, 이 수업이 여러분들이 이제 잘 들어서 이제 도움이 되는 그런 수업이 되기를 이제 바라겠습니다. 그리고 이제 문제는 어쨌든 우리가 이제 중간고사나 이런 시험을 오프라인으로 이제 보기가 힘든 그런 상황이 되었고, 이제 온라인이나 어떤 숙제로 대체해야 되는 그런 상황이 되었는데, 이런 문제들을 좀 어떻게 이제 우리가 풀어 나가야 될지 이제 생각을 해보도록 하겠습니다. 사실 뭐 제가 부임해서 이제 여러분들을 오프라인으로 이제 만나지 못하고 계속 강좌를 녹화를 해가지고 만나는 그런 상황이 되는데, 참 이 온라인이라는 그런 플랫폼이 여러분들이나 저한테나 익숙하지는 않지만은, 또 여러분들이 이제 최대한으로 이 플랫폼을 잘 이용하고 여러분들이 이제 배울 수 있는 것들을 최대한으로 이제 뽑아내면은 좋을 것 같습니다. 그리고 좀 리뷰로 이제 우리가 한다고 하면은, 한다고 할까요? 네. 우리는 지금 컴퓨터 이제 프로세서 구조에서 이제 스태틱 파이프라인, 특히 이제 우리가 이제 학부 때 배웠던 언더그래듀에이트 코र्스에서 우리가 이제 배웠던 그런 5 스테이지 파이프라인부터 시작을 해가지고 그냥 기본적인 그런 파이프라인의 그런 구조들을 우리가 이제 저번 시간에 이제 다루었습니다. 근데 이제 학부 때 이제 배웠던 그런 내용과는 이제 좀 다르게 파이프라이닝의 그런 뎁스도 이제 길어지고, 그리고 이제 기본적인 이제 파이프라이닝이죠. 뎁스가 이제 길어지고, 또 이제 플로팅 포인트 엑스큐션 유닛이 이제 들어가게 되면서, 또 우리가 이제 학부 때에는 이제 생각하지도 못했던 여러 가지 그런 문제들이 우리가 이제 발생하는 것을 이제 볼 수가 있었죠. 특히나 이제 이 그림에서 이제 보는 바와 같이 우리 이제 기본적인 그런 베이직한 그런 5 스테이지 파이프라이닝에서는 그냥 모든 것이 다 인오더 이슈, 그러니까 인스트럭션이 들어가는 순서대로 인오더 컴플리션이 보장이 되는 그런 구조였어요. 그렇지만은 이제 플로팅 포인트가 이제 들어가면서 플로팅 포인트 엑스큐션 유닛이 들어가게 되면서 이게 항상 인오더 컴플리션은 지원하지 못하는, 보장하지 못하는 그런 사태가 그런 문제들이 이제 생기게 되었고요. 그렇기 때문에 우리가 이제 기본적인 그런 파이프라이닝에서는 발생하지 않았던 데이터 해저드 이슈, 특히나 이제 write after write 해저드나 그 다음에 write after read 해저드 같은 그런 이슈들이 이제 생길 수가, write after read는 안 생기죠. write after write 해저드 같은 그런 이슈들이 이제 생기는 그런 문제들이 있었습니다. 그리고 이제 또 사실 우리가 이제 프로세서를 이제 설계를 할 때 잘 생각하지 않는 문제가 exception handling에 대한 그런 문제인데요. 사실 exception handling은 기본적인 우리가 파이프라이닝 구조에서 그렇게 이제 깊게 배우지 않는 그런 주제이긴 했습니다. 이 문제는 어쨌든 퍼포먼스랑 그렇게 관련이 크진 않고요. 그리고 이제 사실은 우리가 이제 단어에서 워드에서 이제 볼 수 있듯이 이건 exception 한 케이스들을 핸들링 하기 위한 그런 구조이기 때문에 이 exception 핸들링은 어떻게 해야 될 것이냐. 특히나 이제 out of order completion 같은 구조를 가지고 있을 때 우리가 precise exception은 어떻게 핸들링을 할 것인가, 이런 것들이 다 여러 가지 문제들이 이제 생기는 것입니다. 어쨌든 우리가 여러분들이 기억을 해야 될 것은 우리가 이제 precise exception을 지원을 하려면은 어쨌든 그 instruction이 commit하는 순서가 commit을 하는 그런 order가 in order가 되어야 된다라는 그런 문제점이 있다라는 거죠. 그러니까는 뭐 계속 말을 했듯이 그 뒤에 있는 그런 그 following instruction이 그 exception이 이제 발생을 했는데 그것보다 더 뒤에 있는 그 instruction이 뭔가 컴퓨터의 이제 스테이터스나 컴퓨터의 내용을 바꾸었다. 이렇게 될 경우가 문제가 된다라는 거죠. 이게 이제 out of order completion의 이제 문제고요. 그 다음에 그 exception은 어쨌든 발생을 하면은 다 이제 rollback 해야 되기 때문에 그 exception이 이제 발생한 그런 결과를 그 마지막 그 instruction이 이제 수행된 그런 결과까지 롤백을 시켜야 되는데 이게 커밋이 된 상태가 된다고 하면은 문제가 된다라는 거죠. 뭐 우리가 이제 뒤에 배울 그런 out of order processor, 특히 그 다이나믹 파이프라이닝 구조를 가지고 있는 out of order processor 같은 경우에 이런 문제가 이제 발생할 수 있는 케이스가 이제 많이 있고요. 특히나 이제 어디에 문제가 되죠? 메모리에 문제가 되죠. 메모리, 뭐 스토어 인스트럭션이라든지 이런 같은 경우에는 어쨌든 캐시라든지 그 메모리 내용을 뭔가 빨리 바꿔야 되는 그런 사태가 그런 역할을 해야 되기 때문에 특히 이제 메모리 부분은 우리가 이제 캐시 같은 부분은 계속 이제 인스트럭션이 뭐 체크를 하고 그 다음에 다시 이제 뭐 업데이트를 하고 이런 것들이 계속 일어나야 되는 거죠. 뭐 근데 이제 이 어떤 한 인스트럭션에서 이제 이 exception이 이제 발생하고 인스트럭션 1이 있을 때 여기 exception이 발생했는데 인스트럭션 2에서 뭔가 메모리를 이제 바꿔버렸다. 스토어 인스트럭션 비슷하게 되겠죠. 이렇게 될 경우에가 이제 문제가 된다라는 거죠. 뭐 이거는 이제 우리가 나중에 이제 out of order processor에 가서 좀 더 자세하게 이제 다루게 될 이야기이긴 한데요. 사실 뭐 이런 뭐 여러분들이 생각을 했을 때 뭐 스펙터라든지 이런 시큐리티 이슈들도 이런 캐시에 이제 뭔가 커밋을 하는 그런 인스트럭션들 때문에 이제 생기는 문제가 되겠죠. 이런 부분들을 여러분들이 잘 좀 고려를 해서 생각을 하면은 또 리서치 그 주제가 생길 수도 있을 것입니다. 그래서 항상 우리가 이제 사실 뭐 어쨌든 컴퓨터 하드웨어를 여러분들이 뭐 열심히 공부를 한다고 하면은 컴퓨터 하드웨어에서 이제 문제가 되는 여러 가지 이슈들에 대해서 우리가 포커스를 하다 보면은 그런 좋은 리서치 주제들을 우리가 찾을 수 있을 거라고 생각을 합니다. 그냥 요새 같은 그 시큐리티가 이제 점점 이게 사람들이 포커스를 하는 그런 시대에는 이런 약간 exception 이런 exception한 이벤트를 가지고서 이제 뭔가 문제를 일으키는 그런 보안 어택들이 시큐리티 어택들이 이제 많이 이제 등장을 하고 있죠. 그런 부분들을 이제 잘 살펴보는 것이 이제 중요할 겁니다. 네. 그다음에 뭐 여러 가지 파이프라이닝 구조, 슈퍼스케일러 뭐 이런 것들을 이제 우리가 했고요. 여기까지 해서 저리가 네. 어쨌든 이게 out of order completion 그 문제들이 이제 발생을 하면서 우리가 이제 그 커밋이 되기 전에 어떻게 그 컴퓨터 스테이터스를 어떻게 우리가 매니지를 할 것인가 뭐 이런 부분들을 여러분들이 이제 잘 생각을 해야 될 겁니다. 특히 이제 out of order completion 그 다음에 우리가 뒤에 배울 다이나믹 파이프라이닝의 out of order execution 이런 부분 그런 컴퓨터 이제 아키텍처들은 이런 마이크로 아키텍처들은 퍼포먼스를 우선적으로 생각을 해가지고 설계가 되었어요. 근데 이제 어떤 문제들이 발생을 한 거죠? 시큐리티 문제가 발생을 한 거죠. 참 이게 뭐 저는 뭐 시큐리티 문제를 뭐 그렇게 좋게 생각하진 않는데 어쨌든 도둑들을 잘 막기 위해서는 그 이제 퍼포먼스를 조금은 희생을 하더라도 뭔가 안전한, secure한 execution을 보장할 수 있는 그런 프로세서가 사람들이 점점 고려를 하고 있다라는 거. 그것을 여러분들이 좀 염두를 해두면 좋을 것 같습니다. 그래서 이제 우리가 저번 시간에 여기까지 이렇게 하면 되지. 네, 일단 이렇게 했고요. So let's start today's class. In the previous class, we covered the static pipelining. So we started from the basic 5-stage pipelining, which was covered in the undergraduate computer architecture course. And then, so when you learn about this basic 5-stage pipelining architecture, then so you focus on the performance of this microarchitecture. So you focus on the how to handle the data hazard. And then also you learn, I believe you learned about some issues which may degrade the performance of the microarchitecture, the processor, computer processor. And then so we learned that some pipeline. So for the floating point execution, the pipelining of this floating point execution maybe it's obviously longer than the integer execution. So because of this issue, the new architecture will have the some more sophisticated architecture, so structure. So that cause out of the completion, and then this out of the completion causes some several issues in the microprocessor architecture. Actually, so we can think about some WAW hazard is a wow hazard. So this wow hazard can happen if for the out of the completion architecture. So these new issues may result from the some new architecture and then some out of the completion. So in the today's class, we learned about some more some various static pipelining architecture, superpipeline, and then superscalar. And then we will learn about some compiler techniques to increase the performance of software. So let's start. So until now, so the static pipelining architecture has the 5 stages for the integer execution and then some more stages for the floating point execution. But so this architecture has the basically one clock stage for the instruction fetch and then instruction decoding and the write back stage. But if we want to increase the clock frequency of the computer processor, then we may split the one stage of the some other state instruction fetch or one stage of the memory stage. So we may split this stage into several stages, multiple stages. So what is the purpose? So what is the purpose of splitting multiple stages? Splitting into multiple stages to increase the clock rate. So what is the benefit of increasing the clock rate? So it's proportional. So clock rate normally is proportional to the performance of computer processor. So in order to increase the clock rate of the computer processor, we may split the stage, some basic stage into the multiple stages. So in this example, so what is the splitted stage? So instruction fetch stage is split into two instruction fetch 1, IF1 and IF2 stages. Also, memory stage is split into the memory 1 and memory 2 stages. So by splitting this stage into multiple stages, we hope that the clock frequency is increased. So hopefully, but it's not free. Why? The performance degradation by data hazard may increase. So for example, so this is the branch penalty. What is the branch penalty? The branch is taken. The following instructions should be flushed in the pipelining registers. So that means that the following instructions will waste the clock cycles. So this branch penalty will increase if we increase the stage of the instruction fetch or instruction decode stages. Also, the latency of instructions in the clock instruction is increased. So this is the new table to calculate the latency and then some initiation interval of the instructions. So let's compare with the previous tables. So for the basic pipeline stage of the integer execution and then five stage pipelines for the floating point instruction. So the latency of the instruction is the 0, 1, 4. And then let's see the new value. Actually, it was the 0, 1, 4. But the new latency is 1 here, and then 3 load for the load instruction, and then floating point is actually the same because we only changed the pipelining stage of the integer instructions. So what is the problem? When data hazard occurs, then the data hazard penalty also increases. So what is this from? So actually the integer execution unit is also integer execution stage is split into two stages. So latency of the integer ALU increases. That means that if the following integer instruction has the data dependency with the previous former instruction, then the pipelining should be stalled for 1 clock. And that's the very large penalty of this pipelining stage. Also, initiation interval is also actually it's the same. So initiation interval is the same because so we can if there is no data dependencies between two consecutive instructions, integer instructions or some other instructions, then the initiation interval is 1 clock. So that means that if there is no data dependency between the integer instruction 1 and integer instruction 2, then these two instructions can be issued in a row in this pipelining architecture. Okay, let's see the superscalar CPU. So superscalar means that multiple instructions can be issued at the same clock cycle. So what is the difference from the previous architecture? This superscalar CPU, superscalar architecture has the two instruction fetch stages and then two ID stages, and then these stages are also this is the integer instruction path, and then this is the floating point instruction path, and then the final write back. So how can this architecture is possible? How can this architecture be possible? Sorry. How is that possible? So actually, for the integer instruction and the floating point instruction, the hardware of these two different type of instructions can be separated. Why? So actually the execution is separated. So like EX, so EX here actually, and then floating point execution unit is here. And then what is separated? Also, the memory instruction is also go through the integer instruction path. So we can separate the memory stage with some floating point execution stages. Also, the integer instructions requires the upload data from the integer register file, and then register file RF, and then the floating point instruction fetch the upload data from the floating point in register file. So that means that actually we can separate the ID stage of these two integer type instructions and floating point instructions. So we can separate the register files. So that means that the integer instructions and the floating point instructions can be executed in parallel and concurrently, because we can separate the required hardware resources for integer instructions and floating point instructions. And obviously, we can concurrently execute these two different type of instructions. And then that's the idea of the superscalar CPU. So that means that different type of instruction, like integer instruction and then floating point instructions, can be executed, fetched at the same clock, and then decoded in the same clock. So that means that these two different type of instructions can be fetched and then issued concurrently. So what is the benefit of this superscalar CPU? Two instructions can be executed at the same clock. So then we increase the performance of the computer processors. So as I explained, we can separate the integer and floating point register file and then issue the pair of instructions. So integer and instruction. So benefit of this superscalar CPU is that the two instructions can be executed at the same clock. And ideally we can increase the CPI, CPI to the half of CPI, clock per instruction. And then for this architecture, multiple instructions can be executed at the same clock. So instead of CPI, clock per instruction, we use the IPC. So IPC. So what IPC means the instructions per clock. And then for the parallel processors, this metric is used instead of CPI to represent the performance of the parallel processor. So this IPC, instruction per clock, is used for representing the performance of parallel processors. So you can use the IPC. So if we use the superscalar CPU, then in the ideal case, then IPC is a maximum IPC is the 2, because at every clock, two different instructions can be issued at the same clock cycle. So it's the ideal IPC. But I said that this is ideal. So actually, the IPC is less than 2. And then also, what is the issue of the superscalar CPU? So in order to maximize the performance of a superscalar, then every instructions have the integer type and then floating point instructions 1 to 1. So 50% of the integer instruction and then 50% of the floating point instructions. But it's not, it didn't. So in reality, this case does not happen. So it's very hard to balance this type of instruction, integer and floating point, in the real applications. So that's the problem. So when we launch some real application of the superscalar CPU, then IPC is not much higher than the normal CPU. That's the problem. And then let's talk about the branch prediction. So what is the branch prediction? And then why branch prediction is useful? And then why branch prediction is required? It's useful and required. So the first, the performance of the processor is degraded due to the penalty of branch instruction. What's the penalty? So when the branch instruction is taken, so taken means that when the branch instruction is executed, the next instruction is selected from the target address of the branch instruction at the next instruction, the following instruction. So if the branch is taken, then penalty is high for the pipelining architecture. So in order to reduce these branch penalties, the branch prediction is required. So branch prediction is invented. So branch prediction idea is invented. So what is the example of the branch prediction? So actually this is the state. So when the branch instruction is issued, then what is the result of the branch instruction? Taken or not taken? So if the branch is taken, then the target PC, the instruction pointed by the target PC is executed. If not taken, the next instruction, following instruction, is executed. So the penalty of branch instruction is that if the branch is taken, then the penalty is high. So we can expect the penalty. So we can, so in the for the branch prediction, so we can think about some possible combination of the branch prediction. So what is the possible combination or possible prediction? So always untaken. Actually, this is the basic for the actually this is always happens for the basic pipeline architecture. So if the branch is untaken, so actually when the branch is the result of the branch is resolved in the EX stage, the following instructions, like instruction 1 and then instruction 2, is always located in the instruction fetch and the instruction decoder stage. So always predict untaken and then executed in EX is some basic operation of the pipelining stage. And then even though the sorry, I was interrupted. So this predict untaken is the basic. Actually, it's a basic, obviously applied for the basic pipeline architecture. But so what's the some disadvantage of this predict untaken case? Always predict untaken. So actually in the program, so we frequently use the for loop, like a for I 0, I 100, I plus plus, and then here, and then for loop. So when we see that this for statement, the at the end of the loop, the branch is always actually taken. Like so, the program count is changed to the start of this instruction. So always predict untaken is always mispredicted and not always, mostly mispredicted at the end of the for loop, iterative loop. And then could predict taken. So instead the branch is always predicted as taken, but it's not useful because when the branch is taken, until the branch is resolved, the following instruction cannot be fetched. And then this is the same to the penalty of the branch instruction. So it's not useful. And then so we can apply the branch prediction more flexibly. So based on the OP code and the sign and size of the branch offset. Branch offset is some offset of the target address. And then these techniques will be more will be covered in more detail in the dynamic pipelining architecture. Also, the compiler may help the prediction of the branch instruction. This is the compiler time branch prediction. So this technique exploit the hint bit. So hint bit is included in the some format of the instruction. This hint bit is set by the compiler. For example, if the branch instruction has the hint bit as the taken, like 1, then this branch instruction is predicted as taken in the microarchitecture. But this hint bit is set by the compiler. So this can be useful because for the for loop, it's a for, let's see the example, is a for I equals 0 and I is less than 100 and I plus plus, and then here. And then if we see that this statement, then we know that this for loop will be iterated 100 times, repeated 100 times. So if the compiler analyzes this code, then compiler may have the knowledge about this for loop, iterative loop. So and then the compiler may estimate the number of iteration based on this statement. So in this case, the compiler may generate the hint bit as the taken at the end of the loop here. So compiler may set this hint bit in the branch instruction, and then but these techniques cannot be applied for all branch instructions because some instructions may be the number of iteration of some branch some statement may be dynamically calculated. And then for this, if the number of iteration is statically defined by the programmers, then compiler may predict the number of iteration. But if this iterative loop is dynamically defined, then it's not easy to estimate the some taken or not taken of the branch instruction. So this behavior of the branch instruction is resolved during the operation of the program. And then let's see some compiler scheduling techniques to increase the performance of software, the computer applications. So this is very critical for the performance of the application because due to the data dependency and data hazard, the performance of the computer processor is degraded. So that means that it's the and then this performance degradation is caused by data dependency. So for example, if we use for the 5-stage pipelining, if we set the load R1 and then add R2, R1, R0, then there is the data dependency between load and add instruction. So and then we know that the one clock should be stored in these instructions in this instruction group because of the data dependence between here and here. So, but if there is the irrelevant instructions between load and add instruction, like load R1 and then add R0, 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 add R2, R1, R0 here, then this add instruction is irrelevant with the load instruction. There is no data dependency between the former load instruction. So as the add instruction is executed here, these instructions has no data hazard because the distance between load and add instruction is bigger than 1. So compilers may change the order of instructions by analyzing the data dependency between instructions. And then if this compiler technique is applied, then the performance of the software may be increased. So this is the example of the some compiler example of the some program example. So you can see this iterative for statement and then AI. So in array AI is AI plus BI, and then this loop is iterated by 100 times. And then so we can the compiler may generate the assembly code and then without any optimization techniques. So this is the straightforwardly translated from this high level language. So here, so this is some example compiled code. So the load single precision is a floating point load and load instruction and then add instruction. And then we need to update this array AI with the calculated value. So and then note that this is the floating point instruction. So it's the add.s, it's a single precision add instruction. So between this add and store instruction, like so F2 is here. So this store instruction need to wait until the result of the add instruction is reserved. So this is the number of cycles spent in ID stage, and then this store instruction need to wait 5 cycles in the ID stage. Also, there is the data dependency between this load instruction F1 and then F1 here, and then this add instruction. So single precision add instruction need to wait 2 cycles in the ID stage. So actually this penalty is 1 plus 1 cycle here, and then plus 4 cycle of penalties is here, and then this instruction is and then this instruction increase the index of the arrays A and B, and then this instruction calculate the index value I, so number of iteration. So, and then what is this penalty? This is the branch penalty. A branch will be taken for 99 times. The branch will be taken 99 times in this example. So the clock cycles for this branch instruction will be 3 cycles. So let's see the total execution time of this example. So when we just add this number of clock cycles spent in ID, then it is the totally 15 cycles, and then what is the number of instructions here? 8 instructions. So it's a CPI is the 15 divided by 8 is a 1.88. It's a nearly 2. So this when this instruction is executed in the CPU and without any optimization technique, then the CPI is nearly 2. But let's see this example. So when we see when data dependency between this code, then we can find the data dependency here and then here. And then there is no data dependency between this instruction and this instruction, because actually this instruction just increase the indexes of arrays. And then also we can find any data dependencies between R3 and here, and these instructions, floating point instructions. So if we change the order of these instructions, we can easily reduce the wasted clock cycles. So in this example, this sub I is changed, the location of the sub I is changed to the next of this load instruction, and then the add instruction is located here. So by inserting the irrelevant instructions between load and add instruction here, then we can reduce the wasted cycles by this add instruction. So here, and then how about this store instruction? Actually, this store instruction requires the 5 cycles, actually 4 cycles, until this add instruction complete actually generate the final result. So we can insert the irrelevant instructions, add I instructions, between this floating point add instruction and store instruction. So here, so by inserting these irrelevant 2 instructions between floating point add and store instructions, also we can reduce the penalty, data hazard penalty of this store instruction by 2, because 2 instructions are inserted here. Then it's the same. Branch penalty is the same, so we cannot we cannot reduce these branch penalties. So by changing the order of instructions inside of one iterative loop, then the execution time of the one iterative loop is the 12 cycles, 12 clocks. So when we compare with this previous result, the clock cycle was the 15. So what is the speed up? 1.25. So that means that when the instructions are rescheduled by the compiler in the one iterative loop, then the speed up is 55%. And it's very huge. 25% of the speed up is very huge. So also, the penalty of the branch instruction also can be improved by the delayed branch. So what is the delayed branch? So delayed branch means that if it's the P and easy here, and then if the delayed branch slot is 1, then the following one instruction should be executed regardless of the resolution of this branch instruction. So this is the delayed branch. So then, so if the sorry, if there is some execution, there is an instruction which should be uh, executed, must executed, uh, surely executed, regardless of the result of the branch instruction, then we can use the delayed branch slot. So by using this delayed branch slot, we can reduce the performance degradation by branch penalties. But the problem is that the structure of this architecture of this delayed branch makes the structure of the computer hardware more complex. Also, another limitation of this local scheduling this is the local scheduling. So, because the scheduling is applied only inside of the iterative loop, and the limit of this local scheduling is the number of instructions is very small. So it's not easy to find the irrelevant instructions in the inside of one iterative loop. As you can see, there are only 8 instructions here, and then it's not easy to find the irrelevant instructions here. So we cannot reduce the penalty of this store instruction. We can reduce, but we cannot eliminate the penalties by data dependency of this store instruction. So in order to overcome this limitation is the limitation of the local scheduling. We can use the global scheduling techniques like a loop unrolling. So the basic idea of a loop unrolling means that so actually in the previous example, this loop will be repeated 100 times, but that means that and then the single loop will have the 8 instructions. But the compiler knows that this loop will be repeated 100 times. So we can change this loop as the this loop include 2 statements and then we can change this loop as the repeated 50 times. How? Okay, I equal AI plus BI, and then AI plus 1 equal AI plus 1 plus BI plus 1. And then we can also change the I as the for I equals 0 and I as less than 50. So we unroll the loop. So that means that we copy these instructions and then attach this copied instruction in the next of the one iterative loop. And then we can reduce the number of repetition to the half. So this is the idea of a loop unrolling. So what is the benefit of a loop unrolling? So with the loop unrolling, we can have more instructions, and by having more instructions, we can find the more irrelevant instructions. So this is the loop unrolling technique. So So this is the original loop, and then by applying loop unrolling, we just copied this iterative loop twice. So copy twice here and here. And then we apply, if the two iterative loop is merged, then the index, calculating index can be required for the two iterative loops. And then this calculation can be executed for one clock. 그러니까는 우리가 이제 그냥 루프를 두 개 있을 때는 인덱스를 두 번 계산을 해야 되잖아요. 그렇지만 루프 두 개를 if we merge these two loops, then we don't need to calculate the indexes twice. 그러니까 두 번 계산할 필요가 없죠. 그냥 한 번에 인덱스를 무조건 업데이트를 하면 되는 거죠. So index is increased by, where is the cursor? By 8 instead of 4 because the two loops are merged. Then 8 here, and then we decrease the term repetition by 100 to the 50. So we increase the I to the I plus 2 actually. I equal I plus 2, not I plus 1. So it's here. So, and then also we need to adjust the offset of the load instruction, memory instructions here, because for the loop unrolling, so we need to adjust the index of the arrays like A, I plus 1 plus equal B, I plus 1. And then in the same way, we need to adjust the offset of the memory instruction based on the updated indexes. So this is the loop unrolling techniques. And what is the benefit? So in the loop unrolling, so there can be many irrelevant instructions. So it's a result of the loop unrolling in the unoptimized code. So the indexes are calculated here, and then displacement of the memory instructions are recalculated. Also, so we need to rename the floating point register, because if we use the same registers here, then this register, because of the data dependency between this F0 and F0 here, then we can the scheduling, the effect of the scheduling is limited. So in order to remove the wow hazard, the WAW hazard, and the war hazard, WA after right after read hazard, so we apply the register renaming here. So by renaming these register names, we can have more irrelevant instructions. Is here. So actually we know that there is the data dependency here, and then data dependency here, and then data dependency here, and then here. And then if we insert the irrelevant instruction between these instructions, then we can save the clock cycles. So what is the irrelevant instruction? So here, so by adding two load instructions between this load and this load, we can reduce the data hazard by this data dependency between these instructions. Also, as there is the 11th instruction here, so there is no data hazard between this load and add instructions. How about the sub instruction, store instruction? So we can insert the index calculation here, and then we can increase the distance between this floating point add and store instruction. And then there are 4 instructions between floating point and the store instruction here, so there is no data hazard. So here, so this is the clock cycles for the clock cycles after loop unrolling and scheduling is applied. So you can find the clock cycles here, and there is no hazard between the you can find there is no hazard due to the data dependencies if the loop is unrolled twice, and there is only branch penalties here at the end of the branches loop. And then for the super pipelining, you can find some more data hazard, but also only we can only see that this improved the result here. Also here. And what is the performance improvement? So the loop is unrolled twice, then total clock cycles for this unrolled loop is 14 cycles, or 7 clocks per iteration. So originally, when the loop is unoptimized, then the clock, so this for the unoptimized loop, then clock will be taken 15 cycles. So what is the performance improvement? 15 divided by 7 is more than twice, 2 times. And then for the super pipeline architecture, the performance improvement is about 3.5. And then for the super pipeline architecture, we assume that clock frequency is also increased by 2. So the benefit of the loop unrolling is very good, actually very high, compared to the unoptimized option. We are almost the end of the static pipeline. Okay, let's apply this loop unrolling techniques to the superscalar processor, and then this superscalar processor actually is not easy because the combination of the integer and the floating point instruction is not always 50 to 50. And then as you can see this example, the fraction of the floating point instruction is much lower than the integer instruction. So even though we imply the superscalar, and it is not easy to fill the slots for the floating point instructions. So in this example, the loop is unrolled twice, and then we apply, and then this unrolled loop is executed in the superscalar architecture. So let's see some example here. So here, this floating point instruction is inserted in the floating point slots here. Then you can find some consumed clock cycles here. And then also the problem is that the floating point instruction is executed here, like here, and then here. Then it's not easy to fill the this slot, this reduce the distance between this floating point instruction and store instructions. So it is because when for the normal architecture, then we can insert the these integer instructions between floating point add and store instruction. And the problem is that for the superscalar architecture, the integer instruction is concurrently executed, concurrently issued with the floating point instructions, because there is some independent slot for the floating point instructions. So in this case, it's not easy to increase the distance between this add and store instruction. So the clock penalty is 3 for this store instruction. And then this store instruction always consumes the 3 clocks in the ID stage. The following store instruction here, there is no wasted clock for this store instruction. And then branch penalty is 3. So let's see the speed up for the superscalar architecture. When we calculate this time here is the 7 per iteration, and then this value is the same with the normal architecture, not non-superscalar processor. So that's the problem of a superscalar architecture. So it's not easy. The problem is that the fraction of integer and floating point instruction is not 50 to 50. Also, it's not easy to find the irrelevant instructions between floating point to some following instructions which use the result of the former floating point instructions. And then also there is the limitation of the loop unrolling. So actually in this example, we applied loop unrolling twice only. And then if we apply the loop unrolling more times, then it is expected that the benefit from loop unrolling will be increased. But it's not always true, because the loop unrolling number, the loop unrolling count, can be limited by the interloop dependency. So loop unrolling works well if there is no dependence between loop execution. But if there is the dependency between the loop execution, then loop unrolling is limited by this dependence. And this is the example. And then we frequently use the similar loop execution or loop calculation like this, like AI is the AI minus 5 and BI. So in this case, we cannot annul the loop more than 5 times, because there is a dependence between this A0, A1, A2, and then A3 and A4, and then the A6 requires the result from this A0. So A0 first, no, this one, not A0, actually, because it starts from the 5, but AI plus 5 requires the data from the AI. So there is a dependence between the array A and AI plus 5, dependence between the different iterations. So even though when the So when the loop unrolling is applied more than 5 times, then there is a dependence between this AI and AI plus 5. So we cannot find some irrelevant instructions, even though the loop is unrolled more than 5 times. So this because of this loop carried dependency, the number of loop unrolling is limited. Also, another issue is that when the loop unrolling is applied, then we need to rename the register files. So in this example, we rename the register file of this load instruction with the F3 and F4 and F5. So that means that loop unrolling consumes the more register files. Then it requires the register renaming. And so the number of loop unrolling is also limited by the number of registers. Also, this loop unrolling also increase the number of instructions. So that means that increase the size of the program code. And so it will occupy the more memory spaces. Also, it will so that limit that occupies the more instruction cache spaces. And then also it is the critical problem. If the number of iteration is unknown during the compilation time, then the unrolling cannot be applied. So if the iteration number is dynamically determined, then it is not easy to apply the loop unrolling. So let's summarize the this static pipelining issues. So we we covered the static pipeline architecture starting from the basic five-stage pipeline, and then we also covered the out of the completion issue of the static pipelining architecture, and then super pipelining, and then superscalar, and then also we learned about the some compilation technique to increase the performance of static pipeline architecture. So let's see some advantage and disadvantage of this static pipelining architecture. So let's see the strengths. So the advantage of this static pipelining architecture is the hardware, simple hardware. So when we design this pipelining architecture with the hardware, then hardware structure is very simple. So we can reduce the clock. We can reduce the clock period because the hardware is simple. So that means that we can easily increase the clock frequency of the static pipelining architecture. Also, this static pipelining architecture, so this advantage is compared to the dynamic pipelining architecture. So and then another advantage of a static pipeline architecture is that execution of the instruction is very predictable. So we know that when the instruction is issued and then when the instruction is completed, the execution of the instruction is completed with the static pipeline architecture. And then with this static pipeline architecture, the execution and completion of the instruction is statically determined. So compiler can have the global view of the code. And that means that some optimization technique can be easily applied by the compiler. And then the effect of this optimization can be directly influence the performance of the static pipeline. And then power and energy advantage, because the hardware is simple, then we can expect that the power consumption of the static static pipeline architecture is better than the dynamic pipeline architecture. But for the energy side, it's not always true because energy is the function of power multiplied by execution time. And then weakness, disadvantage. So when we learned about this static pipeline architecture, we do not assume there is no cache misses. But it's always true that cache misses occur. And then what will happen if cache misses occur? Then we need to store the entire pipelining stages. And then that's the problem. So, but there is no dynamic mechanism with the static pipeline architecture to handle these cache misses or some dynamic memory operations. Also, no general solutions for precise exception with out-of-order completion. And then compilers can be very complex. This is the disadvantage of the static pipeline architecture. But the most critical disadvantage is here. So there is no dynamic mechanism if the entire pipeline is stalled by the cache misses. So that is connected to the significant performance degradation with the memory operation. And the static pipeline is applied. So in order to overcome the disadvantage of static pipeline architecture, dynamic pipeline architecture is invented and then presented. And then this dynamic architecture dynamically change the order of execution of the instruction, but we need to keep the order of the completion. It's the commit of the instruction. So with this dynamic pipeline architecture, we can increase the performance of the computer processor even with the cache misses. Also, there can be many speculation techniques can be applied with the dynamic pipeline architecture, and then these techniques is good for increasing the performance of the computer processor. And then we will learn about this dynamic pipeline architecture in the next topic as the next topic. So okay, I will stop here, and then I will conclude the static pipeline architecture here, and then in the next video I will come with the dynamic pipeline architecture. 네, 수고 많으셨습니다.